we're almost at the end of the year, and so it's time to take a look back at all the great running we've been able to do. This is my top 5 daily trainers of 2022. Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Kofuzi, and today I want to talk to you guys about my top 5 daily trainers of 2022. But first, before I do that, I do want to go over some disclosures. Some of these shoes were sent to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for them, and some of them I bought myself. I'll put more detail about that in the description down below. But no matter how a shoe gets to me, no one is paying me to make this video or to include their shoe on this list, and no one's gonna get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about my top 5 daily trainers of 2022. I'm gonna start with number 1 because that's the way I like to do these kinds of countdowns, and that number 1 shoe is going to be the Asics Novablast 3. I've been loving what Asics has been doing with the Novablast series over the past 3 years, and this year is the best Novablast yet. This year with the Novablast 3, we get FF Blast Plus, which is the lightest, squishiest foam that Asics has put into a daily trainer. I've been able to run in pretty much every kind of terrain in this shoe. I've literally run with this shoe all over the country, and I've put in a bunch of miles on it, more than I typically put in for the shoes that I review, and I've been having a fantastic time doing it. The upper is super comfortable as well. So from top to bottom, I really love this shoe, and it has been my shoe of the year. And because it is so versatile and fun to run in, it has been my top daily trainer of the year. Number 2 is close behind it, and a shoe that I've been having a hard time with the past couple of years, and that is the New Balance Rebel version 3. For this year, the Rebel 3 finally finds itself in the daily trainer category. For the last 2 years, for version 1 and 2, I've been putting this shoe squarely in the speed shoe category, regardless of how much New Balance has insisted that it is a daily trainer. This year, they've increased the stack height in the forefoot by a little bit, a millimeter, and they have widened the base a little bit, not by a lot in terms of where you're landing, but I also think that they have tweaked the toe spring in this shoe as well, so it just feels like there's a lot more fuel cell foam in that forefoot, and that has converted what used to be a really great speed day shoe into a shoe that can still pick up the pace, but can also do all those other things that you want a daily trainer to do. I've taken it as long as on a 20-mile run, so it certainly passes the long run test, and I enjoy it for strides and recovery runs and pretty much everything in between. So this shoe has been really versatile for me, really lightweight, but it still feels a little bit thin in the front. I would love to have just a little bit more cushion for me when it comes to responsive, squishy, fun foams. The more, the better. And this one has just the bare minimum amount, I think, to be called a daily trainer, and that's why it's my number 2 shoe for 2022. Number 3 is a choice that I think a lot of you guys are gonna find a little bit controversial. For some of you guys, this is your shoe of the year, if not your daily trainer of the year. It's the Endorphin Speed 3. Now, the thing about this shoe is that this shoe should be in the speed category. That's where Saucony wants it to be. But I know so many of you are using this shoe, not only for your speed work, but for also all of your daily training as well, for everything from recovery runs to daily training and for your speed work as well. And so you guys have been loving it because of that versatility. I also enjoyed this shoe. I think this is probably the best Endorphin Speed they've ever made. But because of the way that so many of you are using it and insisting that it goes in the daily training category, that's where I'm gonna put it. Because you guys aren't asking me to compare this against other plated shoes or other workout shoes. You're asking me to compare it against the Novablast and the Rebel 3. So here it is at number 3 in my mind as a daily trainer, because while I do love it for my 5K pace intervals, and I think it's best at that speed, it is a little bit firm up front, and there are softer options like the Rebel 3, like the Novablast 3, in terms of the daily training, the long, easy runs, or even the recovery runs. So while the upper is really comfortable, as I always would expect and do find with Saucony uppers, and while this Power Run PB foam is better than ever, I do find that like sometimes it's a little bit firm depending on what kind of run you're doing. And for me, sometimes it disagreed with my foot entirely. I love the way that they've set up this shoe, except I wish that they would cut this part out here, just like they have in the Endorphin Pro 3. And then I think that I would have zero problems with this shoe whatsoever. But because overall it is still a fantastic shoe, and it probably is the people's choice in top daily trainer for the year, I'm gonna put the shoe at number 3. All right, moving on to number 4 is a shoe that earlier in the year I thought could have been the daily trainer of the year. That's how close all 5 of these shoes that I'm gonna talk about today are, but it's coming in at number 4 now. It's the Hoka Mach 5. Last year, the Mach 4 was kind of tied with the Novablast 2 as my favorite of the daily trainers of 2021. This year in 2022, I do think they made very slight improvements on it, increasing all those things that we loved about it. It feels light, it feels snappy, but it also feels really nice and cushioned with that ProFly now going with a supercritical top layer. You have a really nice initial compression when you're hitting the ground, and then you have a nice snap back up as you're lifting your foot up for that next stride. So it's really easy to be able to take this shoe for strides, easy runs, and long runs as well. I've even taken this shoe, even though it has no rubber on the outsole, I've even taken it on some trail runs, so it can handle pretty much everything. Because it does it all so well in such a fun package, the Hoka Mach 5 comes in at number 4. And rounding out my top 5 daily trainers for 2022 is another shoe from New Balance. It is the 880. Instead of using the fuel cell, and this one they have the Fresh Foam X. And last year, the 880 version 11 was kind of like, I don't remember, I think it was in the top 5, or it might have had honorable mention. It had that very strong workhorse vibe. It didn't really look like the flashiest shoe, and it had a bunch of rubber on the outsole, so you had a good midsole foam, but you're really feeling a lot of that outsole rubber experience. This year, you have a lot of the same setup, visually and in terms of the way the outsole is set up, but they've done something, and I don't know exactly how to explain it, where even though there is a lot of rubber on the outsole, I feel like you get a bunch of miles out of this shoe. They've tinkered around with the Fresh Foam X and how it's set up, where it feels like a much lighter and a much livelier shoe. So you're getting all that same kind of sense of durability without it being like durability in the negative sense. You're just getting a nice durable workhorse shoe that doesn't feel like it's going to be plodding along. It feels very ready to pick up the pace for those strides, and it could do those long runs as well. This is another shoe that I've been taking out on the trails. Around me, the trails aren't super technical, so like if the conditions are dry, I usually get away with a road shoe, and this is a fun shoe to bring out on those trails as well, because it does have a little bit beefier of an outsole compared to a lot of the other shoes that we've talked about today. And because it is versatile and light, and it is a lot of fun to run in, the New Balance 880 version 12 comes in at number 5. So those are my top 5 daily trainers for 2022. Let me know in the comments if you disagree. I'm sure you already have if you do. Or if any of these shoes haven't been working for you, I'd love to hear more about that too. Telling me a little bit more, help me understand why sometimes some of the shoes that I love aren't working for some of you guys. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?